Thank you, Justin, and thank you for inviting me to talk to you today about what we've been doing in the West with our quality program. So this is the story that we've been working on for quite a few years about our minimum quality standards and an insight of our results for the 2019 testing program. And the goal, of course, is when you buy a West Australian apple, it will be a great apple. So that's what we were trying to achieve. As Justin explained, Pomewest is a grower committee and it represents all West Australian growing regions. Pomewest is funded by state legislated fee-for-service, and that's collected on the sale of products by the Agricultural Produce Commission of Western Australia. So why did we need a quality program? Well, we wanted to focus on the prize, and that was keeping our consumers happy. And what did they want? We decided that they deserve to have a great tasting apple every time. They want the experience of eating an apple picked straight off the tree, and they want it to be safe. And most don't understand harvest times or storage. They want to know where their produce is from, and we heard that in the previous speaker, and they love local produce and they want to support local growers. Some discerning customers know the branded apples really well, but mostly they just want a red, green or pink apple. And they want to feel really good about eating healthy food. What we were seeing is declining consumption, and we realised that we just can't get away with supplying substandard fruit anymore, and we all know that a bad taste experience can mean at least a 6-week lag in repeat purchase. We know we have competition. There's other fruits out there that we're competing with, but we've got new technologies in confectionery, we've got the health snack market, and we've got emerging trends with dietary requirements. Trust. I think trust is going to be a key word today. There's so much disappointment when you buy with your eyes, you see a beautiful piece of fruit, you get it home, and the taste doesn't match what it looks like. So that's just so disappointing for our customers. We also realise that we have industry challenges, and there's an advantage of going to market early, getting elevated prices, and that was encouraging some of our growers to go in early when the fruit wasn't ready, and we found that this is disadvantaging our whole industry, and we really wanted to change this practice. We need to take care with our storage techniques, and while we've got technologies improving all the time, we're still finding there's an issue with bad or poor quality fruit in retail. And pushing boundaries, undermining quality for profit in the marketplace. We just can't afford to do this. We're self-sabotaging our reputation. So the committee decided to do something about it, and the goals are really simple. We wanted to promote a healthy and thriving Western Australian pome industry, our growers to get a really good return on investment, and we wanted a cohesive and strong industry so we could encourage continued support and investment. And we realised the importance of export, regaining our export markets, and we realised that our quality had to be prepared for these programs. And we'd love to have the reputation of growing excellent and safe quality. So, our story. Based on the success of table grapes in the citrus industry in Western Australia, our West Australian pome growers wanted to copy their model. The citrus and grape industry started with some legislation in the West Australian Biosecurity and Management Act, the BAMA Act. They were able to set minimum standards in Western Australia Under this legislation, products not meeting these set standards could be removed from market floor or retail. It's true, our West Australian apple growers wanted to see these regulations originally in place to protect our own West Australian market, and we wanted to stop imports coming over from you guys that were pushing we thought they were pushing our prices down, so we wanted to protect our own market. And we've been doing various surveys and assessment in data over many years, and we were noticing between 2011 and 2014 gave us the indication that there was poor quality out there in retail. So the process was, industry decided through many industry meetings and discussions that minimum maturity standards were necessary to define before we could attempt to endorse them and apply for this legislation through the BAM Act. Between 2015 and 17, Pomewest commissioned a project to provide data to set reasonable maturity standards. 10 properties over the growing regions in Perth Hills, Donnybrook, Kirrop and Manjimup were selected, and they all represented differing climatic conditions in our areas. Tests were done to establish provisional maturity standards for commodity apples, and we focused on 3 varieties being Gala, Grannies and Pink Lady. Maturity standards were defined by 3 measurements: firmness, sugar and starch content, and it was decided latterly that colour should be excluded. The standards were agreed to by the Pomewest Committee and were given to all our growers to have a look through, and they were all agreed in meetings and surveys. And all our growers were aware that potentially the legislation would knock fruit out of the market if the standards were not reached. So we were ready for the legislation. In 2017, we applied to the then Department of Agriculture and Food for our legislation, and we had our data and our proposed standards in hand. Unfortunately, after a year of negotiations and extreme disappointment, we learned that the submission had failed, even though we had some precedents from the citrus and table grape industries. The reason we were given, the West Australian Government advised us that it could now not endorse regulations that control businesses or our markets. So it was back to the drawing board, and then we thought the best way to go about this from here was to look at self-regulation. So last year we decided to start with what we could control, and we commenced random maturity testing at wholesale and retail. We knew some growers would resist complying, but we knew that we had most of them on board. As stewards of the program, we organised workshops that were conducted at harvest, so we could assist growers to test their own maturities. We also published our own step-by-step guide, which I have a couple of copies here if you want to have a look through. That explained our testing procedures that growers could have, and explained our goals and aspirations, and we published the all-important standards. We offered free pre-harvest testing with our testing consultant, and growers were kept in communication about their passes and fails along the way. We also engaged with local media, and we were promoting, when you buy a West Australian apple, it will be a great apple, to nurture loyal and repeat customers to our West Australian apples. And we also got a mention on the project, which was national, so there was interest in apple growers actually doing something to provide our consumers with a great apple. That's a bit of an image of one of our workshops, and you can see we've got very advanced seating there with the crates with all, but you know, this is, we did it in all the regions. So our method, wholesale and retail testing used the usual tools of the trade. We had refractor meters measuring our bricks, starch levels measured by indexes using iodine, and petrometers using for pressures. So the results. In Wholesale, 120 samples were tested and we had an 82.5 pass rate. 3 samples failed bricks, 14 samples failed starches and 6 samples failed pressures. Of the pressures, 4 were Royal Gala, 1 Pink Lady and 1 Granny Smith. In our retail, we had 191 mystery shopper samples. We had a pass rate of 85.3%. 3 samples of Gala failed bricks, 5 samples failed starch, and 20 samples failed minimum pressures. Of those, 17 were Royal Gala and 3 Granny Smith. So what we've learnt about this, the summary. Harvest. Promoting and marketing new season fruit is still an issue. If it's harvested too early, the fruit is sour. When fruit is ready, it's ready, and when it's not, it's not. So we need to be very aware of that. Post-harvest, we're finding that it could be the variation of temperatures that is causing the problem. We're finding that potentially if there's a glut at Wholesale, that it affects the general quality with temperature variation moving stock in and out of colder storage levels. And at retail, we see over-maturing with greater pressure fails, which means a flowery product for our customers, and we all know this. Moving apples between temperatures while packing and marketing prior to sale is the major factor in shelf life. Interestingly enough, we noticed that Pink Lady samples, nearly all of them passed at Wholesale and retail. So from here, the 2019 program was deemed successful for our industry to start the self-regulation and bring our growers along on our journey. In 2020, we have resolved to keep the program going, and we will be focusing on continuing testing programs, particularly for new season fruit. We'll still be offering the pre-harvest testing. We'll be encouraging our growers to keep going. We'll also be looking at a more retail-driven program with our testing. We'll be alerting our retailers in some way, the fruit that's not meeting standards, and we will be attempting to engaging them in this process. And we'll be educating the chain about the importance of temperature consistency while handling apples. What's next? While we realise we have a long way to go, we feel that we are moving in the right direction. And future projects could look at using loggers to follow temperatures variation in the chain. And we could be looking at the measure of impact of cosmetics, edible waxes, moisture enhancing, etc. I'd like to now do a bit of a tribute to Harvey Giblett, who is a former chair of Pomewest, and he's with me today, where he's going to talk to you on the panel and you can ask him questions about our program. Harvey's been monumentally behind this quality program as an industry leader, and I'd like to thank him for that because I think we're doing some really good things in the West. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Nardia. Each year in the media we have a current affairs show telling us that our fruit is 12 months old and so forth, and your terminology, that new season fruit, wouldn't a better terminology be in season rather than new season to help us out there a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think the market agents and the retailers are particularly interested in spiking new season fruit as, as getting customers to come and try the new season fruit. So I think that's something that we need to work with those people with. Obviously, that translates to growers to potentially put fruit that's not ready into the season. So we need to have the whole of the chain working together in that.